Our love isn't absent problems, but it sure is absent drama. You deserve this kind of love. Unfiltered Heart Talks with the Dawkins.
But as we talk about the social construct, a lot of people, I'm not sure how many of our viewers, because I know there are a lot of popular YouTubers out there, and because you have showed me the last video that we did where we talk about YouTube couples. You had showed me two couples
Yes.
from who we,
And you didn't
and I
know
didn't know
them.
them,
Yeah.
and I
And you
showed you
showed
two
me two
popular
popular
with
ones, and I didn't know them.
all of them over
A
millions of
millions of views.
subscribers.
Subscribers, yeah.
So I know, but Queen and Clarence
Mhm.
are well-known YouTubers, and they have been living together for years, but he hasn't proposed to her.
Mm.
And so for a lot of people, they feel as though because he hasn't proposed, they're
It's a
not
red
married.
flag and they're not
And it's a red
married.
flag,
Mhm.
and it is a reality that a lot of people don't want the government in their marriage.
Yeah, look at what's his name? Kendrick and
Exactly.
his partner. Yes,
Right.
his wife. Yeah.
That is his wife.
Mhm.
We have even talked about, we at any given time, we can just take this out of the government system and live our lives because we understand what marriage is at the core. We know who marriage represents and who it glorifies,
Yes.
and that is God. You know,
Marriage does not glorify the governmental system.
right?
You get incentivized by playing to their rules so you can get those
It's just their
discounts, or
arena.
it's just their arena. It's
Right.
just it's like purchasing a card to play in their game.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mhm.
with God,
But
it's
they are
a
not the,
spiritual thing.
right. They are not the authorizers, if I
Yeah.
could use that word,
Yes.
of marriage.
The thing is, babe, when marriage is talked about so much like a business,
Mm-hmm.
whether intentionally or unintentionally, there's no wonder so many people are afraid of it.
Yeah.
And not only are they afraid of it, they believe because it's just a business, it can be dissolved just as easily.
Easily broken. Right.
Yes. And another important thing is that most of us
Mhm.
grew up hearing about marriage from a broken place.
Yeah.
We've heard about it from our aunties or uncles that went through a divorce through the
Right.
eyes and the lens of people who are resentful, through
Court
drawn out
battles.
custody battles, distance. We've heard about it through that. And hence, a lot of people decide, based on what I've seen, what I've observed, I do not want this for myself because it
Right.
seems like it's almost inevitable.
Right. Right. And that is the harsh reality.
Absolutely.
And a major contributing factor to the erosion of the mindset that a lot of people have of marriage.
Marriage, yes.
And here's the thing: marriage at its core is God's design.
Absolutely.
Marriage was originated with God. It's not a social construct.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a government institution that designed marriage. And one thing that often gets overlooked when marriage is being discussed is where it comes from,
And why?
when was it instituted,
Mhm.
and why.
Mhm.
And based on your understanding, you understand that marriage is from where?
From creation week 1.
From creation week 1.
Yes.
So when we look at Genesis chapter 2,
Mm-hmm.
God finished his work, right? Creation. And he saw that everything he did was good, except for one thing. And that was what?
Adam was alone.
Adam was alone.
Yes.
And so God looked at loneliness there and realized that it was a problem. So he did what? He created for Adam
And help me.
an helpmate.
And we discussed this before. We talked about in a previous videos, guys, how toxic relationships are detrimental to your overall health. Check out loneliness. Loneliness is worse than that.
And that's so powerful, babe, because God identifies loneliness to be a problem even before sin ever existed.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting is that science, as I always talk about science,
Mm-hmm.
always good science, because you have good science and bad science. Good science always supports scripture. The interesting thing is that science have also confirmed that chronic loneliness has been shown to be just as damaging, if not more, than smoking, cancer, and toxic relationship.
Wow.
Just in line with what you just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So when God was saying that loneliness is not good, he was not being poetic. He was being very precise
Wow.
about what loneliness does to people.
Exactly.
Right. And at that moment, one very interesting thing that we realize is that God didn't create a woman for a man because of procreation.
Just to have children.
It wasn't just to have children.
Mm-hmm.
I remember in my experience, being a part of the church, seeing young married couples and the pressure that was placed upon them by the Christian community. It's like every time you go to church, when are you having children?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I had to say to a few young men that, hey, I think you guys have a huge misconception when it comes to marriage. The sole purpose of marriage is not for procreation.
Mm-hmm.
It's for companionship. Go back to Genesis chapter 2. Woman was created for man because God saw that he was lonely. So procreation is just a byproduct of
God solving that issue of loneliness.
God solving that,
Adam.
And what is important is that sex was what bind that contract. It is the binding agent of marriage. It is the binding agent of that covenant. And as a result of having sex, children are born.
Yes.
So procreation is the mere byproduct of that covenant. It's not the main purpose why it was created. So marriage was instituted, originated by God, and as a result of that, sex being the binding agent, children comes after.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very important. So for people who are without children, don't feel bad. If you're in your marriage, if you're living within that covenant and you have no children, because some people really feel, and that's a society, as
they're
though
not fulfilling their purpose when the original purpose was companionship and not procreation.
And not
it's
procreation.
After God said, it's not good for the man to be alone. And then he's like, okay, be fruitful and multiply.
Be fruitful and multiply.
In that order.
In that order. And what is important too, babe, to note here is that the women, you were created to be a companion to a man. That doesn't make you inferior. It means corresponding. One who goes or comes alongside that man.
So you're saying the idea that women don't need men or that men don't need women is actually not biblical.
Not at all.
And that's just cultural erosion.
That is a cultural erosion.
As you said, we were created for each other.
We were created for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And even when you look at a man's purpose and responsibility in this creation order, babe, you can clearly see that a man's purpose was not for dominance over creation. It was to take care of what God has created.
Yes.
So God assigned that responsibility to man and say, hey, tend to my creation. But what is important to note also is that a part of that creation was also the woman, because the woman came in that creation week, right? So it was now the responsibility of the man to also tend to the needs, the care of his woman. And I want to make that very clear.
Yes.
Because a lot of men believe that because they are the head, it means that they must give out orders, right?
And be served.
And be served. A man was created to take care of his woman, to take care of creation, to serve creation.
So a lot. I'm just seeing some woman in the comments saying, "Oh yes, so you see, y'all are supposed to take care of us. We're just here to keep you company and look pretty by your side."
We both take care of each other,
Yes.
but the man takes care of his main purpose is to take care of God's creation. And so what is important to know too is that when I say to you, hey, I don't want you to be going this place at this time, that's not me trying to control you, right?
It's because I'm your responsibility.
That's me trying to fulfill my God-given responsibility, not in a way of authority, but in a way of leadership and service, right? I am telling you this because I have a responsibility to make sure that you are safe at all times and you are taken care of. Yeah. That is my God-given duty as a man. Yeah. My first responsibility as a man was to tend to God's creation, right? And even when a man says, if a man says to a woman, hey, I don't like you wearing this thing, it's not that he's trying to be controlling. He's trying to protect you because he understands the world that we live in. And the truth is, a part of that care and servitude is giving my life for you like Christ did for me. So because you love me, because you care for me, and because you want to have me around long enough so that we can both enjoy God's creation together, it means that you are not going to put yourself in harm's way so that I will have to give my life just to defend and protect you.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That is the harsh reality and the weight of the responsibility a man carries when it comes to being service to his wife and taking care of her and making sure she's good. It's not to sit down and put up foot and get breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
It's so funny because I've heard a lot of people use the word the wife is the weaker vessel, and it's used not in the sense to say she is genuinely weaker, but to say that her mind is weaker, so she has to be ordered around or she's inferior. Right. And it is so sad. That mentality,
that's the erosion.
It is warped, very warped.
That's the erosion that comes from the social construct and meaning and definition of what marriage is or should be.
Yes.
But not the original definition or the core meaning.
Yeah, so marriage between a man and a woman is a symbiotic relationship. Both benefit, both give. It's a mutual haven, in other words.
Right. And also, it's good to clear up this misconception among believers, especially those who just, as soon as they see people married, I want to now have children. Like, and I give people money for take care of picnic. But what I'm saying is, for people who just want to see people having children, like, children are heavy responsibility.
Absolutely.
Children are to be planned for.
Children must be planned for. It is wicked. It should be very illegal to have children without a plan to take care of those children. And I have started to look at Genesis 2:18. I believe it is. I don't know. The part where God says, "Be fruitful and multiply," in a spiritual sense. You can be fruitful and multiply in this sense, babe, where you possess the fruits of the Spirit. And when you possess the fruits of the Spirit, people see you, they admire you, and they want to be like you. They start mimicking you. And then you've just multiplied through your influence.
Right.
The media understands the importance of influence. That's why they have influencers advertising their stuff, because if the influencers advertise their stuff, they sell more of that stuff. I think we need to start seeing with spiritual lenses. Be fruitful and multiply is not simply copulating, birthing children.
Right.
It's also a spiritual thing because God is a spirit. And I believe, and I can stand by this, I believe that God is more pleased with a couple that can show forth the glory of God and influence other couples to be the same. That is, in the spiritual sense, being fruitful
And
and multiplying.
Yes. Yes. That is deep. That is deep. That is deep. And I hope people will actually pause and just let that process for a moment. Let it sink in. But that is deep. So again, to believers who believe that sex is the main purpose of marriage, no. Sex is not the main purpose of marriage. Companionship is the main purpose of marriage. The order is this, or the structure. It is companionship. Out of loneliness, God created the woman for the man, not because of sex, but out of loneliness. Companionship, sex is the covenantal seal. We're going to jump into the sacredness and importance of sex.
It's like the raised seal that you get from a certified copy of something.
Right.
That's the seal.
Right. It's way more important
It's
than
way
that.
more important.
You know, so sex is the covenantal seal. Procreation is a byproduct of sex.
Our love isn't absent problems, but it sure is absent drama. You deserve this kind of love. Unfiltered Heart Talks with the Dawkins.